with several colleagues in my last position that were victims of domestic violence. So I took the opportunity to volunteer at an agency called Safe Connections.
Kim has never shied away from taking on issues and causes that need to be addressed.
I saw an article in the newspaper about the opportunity to volunteer and become a crisis line answerer. Went in for an interview, was very impressed with the agency, went through 40 hours of training, and started answering the crisis line in evenings, and found it very rewarding to be able to help people one-on-one in that way.
Kim is a very hands-on person. She doesn't just, say things. She actually does things. She walks the walk and talks the talk. Kim has a wide array of interests in the community, which I think makes her a unique St. Louis booster.
I'm on the board of the Symphony, St. Louis Symphony, and Opera Theater of St. Louis. I was on the board of the Community Music School, and I am a panelist for Regional Arts Commission. I've also been working the last few years on a group called the Women's Group for Race Relations in St. Louis, and it's really a grassroots effort of a group of now about 180 women who are trying to make St. Louis a more welcoming, more inclusive place.
It's hard to know what makes Kim successful, but I think she's very high energy, she's very committed, she has those smiling eyes and just an unstoppable energy, and it's contagious, it really is.
If you put me in a group of people, I will probably try to find a mission for us and get us organized.
Kim epitomizes everything that's right about St. Louis, which is she's able to cross many different areas in the community. So, you see her at a lot of fancy things and high society things, but she's also somebody that has volunteered late at night on a crisis helpline, 24/7, reaching out and talking to people who need to talk to somebody when they're in crisis. So Kim is what's right about volunteering, which is she's not just in one box. She does whatever it takes to get things done and to make the region a better place.
I believe the arts community is so very strong here, and I think people are more and more realizing that, and so I hope that continues to be the case. Many of our nonprofits, such as Safe Connections, are doing great work, and I would say that one of the things that would be terrific if more people would get involved and serve on boards. I think that would be great. Maybe someone will listen to this and decide they need to join a board too.
I think that we as a society have the means, if we would just have the will, to make it so much better. It's actually horrifying to me to see that with all the knowledge that we have, we could be cutting back on funds for education, that we could be debating whether every person in this society should have basic health care and basic nutrition.
I've known Sheila for many, many years. She's really one of the smartest women I know in St. Louis.
I'm a practicing attorney, and I guess that my training and my way of thinking informs my decision making.
She's the kind of thinker that who's able to see the big picture as well as the small details. She sees the forest and the trees.
And I can't tell you exactly why I was always for the underdog, but I sort of always remember that. It's really in my marrow. It's not like an overlay, it's inside.
She's been involved with the Jewish Federation probably for 15 or 20 years at least. She really came up the ladder there in terms of leadership. She was the second woman president of the Federation.
I basically hit every rung on the ladder. I really was in almost every office, and it culminated in my becoming president some years ago. My other current active involvement is with ACLU as the affiliate president here, to which I bring both my legal training on one side and also my desire to effect justice, whether it's from, just the legal process or whether it's more broad-based.
There's a wonderful expression, I think, that captures Sheila, and that is that she prays with her feet. That as an activist, she's a doer.
Volunteers and not-for-profits are really like the third sector of the economy, along with business and government. And I really can't imagine St. Louis without the not-for-profit agencies and the volunteers that serve the community through those agencies. And I guess that my hope and wish for the St. Louis community, the world community, is that whatever someone chooses to do, that they choose to do something to help the other people around them.
I taught at Washington University, an instructor in the Department of Romance Languages. I did Italian language and literature. That is still my first love. What got me interested in Fragile X syndrome was my second child was born. We didn't know it was Fragile X. Nobody knew about Fragile X. And we did a variety of testing because he was just a little slow. And so we started a journey of discovery, and we are pioneers, some of the very earliest people understanding and identifying Fragile X syndrome.
Well, Margaret is the first person I met when I entered the world of Fragile X, and they decided to begin this group, and she was able to find a benefactor who helped them make this a nonprofit. And so back in 1992, they established this little nonprofit.
What we did was, I had been on the Missouri Planning Council for Developmental Disabilities. I knew people on the council, one of whom was an MD at the University of Missouri-Columbia, and she was in charge of the genetics conference, which happens every year in Missouri. So we had been at the international conference in Colorado and came back and said, well, we got the gene now. Why don't we get something going here?
As the president, she basically took the leadership role of making sure that whatever function was going to be accomplished did get accomplished.
Knowledge is power. And so we have to educate. I don't care what your topic is.
I think it was probably about 13 years, but she was going into, I believe it was 3rd and 4th grade classrooms, but she had a variety of different puppets. They had different disabilities, and she would go in and role play with them and do these little acts. And so she was using these puppets to illustrate that while we're all different, we can still attain the same things, and we still have the same hopes and dreams.
We all have strengths. And we just have to listen a little more closely. We have to have our arms open a little wider. And so that's the education thing. And I don't care where it's done. It could be done in a tent, it could be done in an ivory tower, it could be done on a street corner. But I never let an opportunity to go by.
She has really been able to use her ability to speak to people eloquently and passionately about a multitude of different topics.
I guess I don't believe in the word selfish. I like sharing, and I think I like people to feel comfortable, and I like people to feel empowered. And I guess that's a very important thing for me, is empowerment. And when people get confident, they will feel empowered to help themselves and to help others.
I loved my work. My parents were volunteers, and so I grew up with volunteering around me. They inspired me to do the work that I do. They always did very important work in the community.
Sally is the epitome of the phrase tikkun olam, which is a Jewish phrase about making the world a better place.
I became involved with National Council of Jewish Women more than 30 years ago, when I moved back to St. Louis. It was the first thing I did. It also led to my work at Legal Advocates for Abused Women. Recently, I became involved with College Bound, and I was led to doing that because I know that the way out of poverty is through education.
Sally's smart. There's no doubt about it. When she has something to say, she finds a way of asserting herself and making a very thoughtful comment to move things along, to make decisions. I think that I most admire that.
And I think that if I had to really name one of the most important things I've done in the community, I would have to say it was Silent Witness.
That was her co-creation and made a difference to give voice to those women who were murdered by their abusers, who no one had ever heard those stories before.
We gathered in Washington, D.C., hundreds of people with their silent witnesses from all across the country, and we marched from the Washington Monument to the steps of the Capitol. And we stood in silence on the steps of the Capitol, and then slowly, one by one, women came forward, told their stories of how they survived their abuse. I think that project was a turning point. When I was working at Legal Advocates for Abused Women, there was a woman that I helped. She was a woman that had been abused for quite some time, and she was looking to get out of this relationship. She got her high school degree. She went on and got a scholarship and went to college. And she moved back to St. Louis after getting her law degree. And the first place she came to volunteer was Legal Advocates for Abused Women. And it was, for me, just absolutely one of the best things that could have happened.
She has a great life and a wonderful family, and I think that making a difference in someone else's life to help them get on the road and to get a better life for themselves is really important to her.
I've lived in peace and quiet, and I want that for everybody. So I hope that I can do something to help.
Health and arts are connected in that, we're doing education with both. By helping to build resources so that those things are available to both, they kind of intermix. Or that's my whole purpose for doing, is to make sure that those who may not otherwise be able to reach out to certain, whether it's a diagnostic test or it's medication or it's a certain educational opportunity, that we're there to do it.
Veronica McDonald has inspired many of us in this community to go out and take care of the needs that we see and find a way to make this a better place for all of us to live.
One of my first jobs was to go in the inner city 3 times a week as a home care dietitian and make calls on several of the people in those areas. And that's when I really began to see the greater need of what was out there, because it was at that time that unless you really go out there and see it, you don't really realize how much people really need.
She worked specifically with the American Dietetic Association and helped them raise some money and improve access to health care for the uninsured and underinsured. So that's really important because we know healthcare is such a hot topic today, and she's really improved life in that area.
I'm on the Missouri Baptist Healthcare Foundation at Missouri Baptist Hospital. I am a trustee for the St. Louis Art Museum. I'm a trustee for the Missouri History Museum. I founded the Friends of Character Plus in St. Louis 8 or 9 years ago, and I'm on their board, the Friends board as well. I have been involved with the Community Music School of St. Louis, which is now Community Music School of Webster University. I've also been involved with Opera Theater of St. Louis and the Lupus Foundation of St. Louis, the National Kidney Foundation.
I think it's just her character. I think it's that she's that type of person that really loves this community and wants it to be even better than it already is.
When you have to look into healthcare and they're sitting there facing a decision as to whether or not they're going to have a diagnostic test or they're going to have lunch that week or they're going to be able to pay tuition if they're trying to work their way through school, the healthcare is going to fall to the wayside. And it shouldn't have to. That should be something that everybody gets.
She doesn't go out and do the things that she's done for recognition or awards or for people to praise her. She does it because she wants people to have access to healthcare, to education, and to great arts in our community.
When I was a teenager, I had to be hospitalized, and I went through a major surgery. And at the time, I was working my way through college, and I didn't really know how I was going to pay for everything. A social worker had come to me and said that somebody had set a fund aside for people like myself who were middle class and working their way through school. That way I could continue with school and continue on the path that I wanted to be on. And so I've always felt that if I have an opportunity, I'd like to pay it back. And I'm very fortunate now that I do have the opportunity.
What I find is that by giving back to other organizations, I find a personal fulfillment in it because I know I'm making a difference in other people's lives. And so I didn't come into this world all about me. It's really about the community and making a difference. And I can really relate to the St. Louis community, having been born and raised here, and saying, I want to be able to give back.
Well, Mary and I live in a kind of a parallel universe together. We've always been fond of our relationship with Washington University, and we've been involved in the Elliott Society. We sponsor scholarships, and Mary's always been one of those kinds of people that is, if the cause is right, she's never been reluctant whatsoever to try and support it.
Well, I'm a pretty busy person. I got my start with St. Joseph Institute for the Deaf about 30 years ago, and then I transitioned into the Women's Auxiliary and got involved through the organization that way. And then gradually over time became more involved in different organizations, particularly the United Way, Stages St. Louis, Washington University, and most recently the YWCA.
She has so many different interests, from women's issues, art and education, health. She has a way of cross-pollinating these various organizations. She can take things that she learns in one organization and transport them to the benefit of another organization.
I find it very personally fulfilling because you know that it's not just about what I've achieved personally from my career or as a mom raising my kids or as a wife with my husband. It's really being able to put all of these things together in a format that would say I've got a well-rounded life. I hope I inspire others to give, and in this same breath being able to make a difference in the St. Louis community as a whole.
And I think there's a trickle-down effect. I mean, you can see people doing good, and that causes somebody else to want to do good, and somebody else will see that, and Mary has a big multiplier effect.
Whatever organization you're involved with, there are those specific moments. I think the ones that resonate with me the most are the ones where you can say, I'm really seeing the mission in action. We are making the difference. So, for example, with St. Joseph Institute for the Deaf, my favorite event of every year is the annual Christmas Gala, where the kids stand up and sing songs and perform.
There's something about looking at those little angelic faces and to know that they're overcoming a hardship and trying to do their best in the performances that they give. They steal your heart away.
Somebody said, were you successful in your charitable endeavors? The answer would be yes, I made the community a better place. And I feel like through the varied organizations that I'm involved with and the contributions that I've made to them, that yes, I have achieved that.
I always kind of laugh because I was a cheerleader in high school, and I feel like that's still one of my roles in life. I don't have pom-poms anymore, but I still have that kind of passion to get people involved.
Peggy Nelson is one of the most amazing women I've ever met in my life. She walks in the room and makes you smile. She makes everybody feel good all the time. You just love being around her.
Well, I was raised in a little bitty town of Swedes. I married my high school sweetheart, and we moved to St. Louis in 1971 for my husband to go to medical school. And 2 years after we moved here, I was diagnosed with a sarcoma in my arm. I decided that having the gift of being a cancer patient myself and feeling like I knew that I could survive with one arm, that I decided I wanted to work with cancer patients full-time.
Cancer support community would not be what it is today without a Peggy Nelson. I think her consistency has been a wonderful gift. Her knowledge of the services we provide. Because she has the therapeutic training, because she herself works with cancer patients, she understands what we do better than anybody else.
And so we opened our doors 20 years ago, and I've been on the board ever since then in a variety of different capacities. But it's still just such a passion for me.
She was instrumental in helping us, figure out how we were going to provide programs and which programs and what models we wanted to choose from. And then she's been great in helping fundraising as well.
And one of the ideas that we have since we are a community is it's a time when cancer patients and their families, board members, supporters, donors, the community can all come together and walk. I'm really, really proud because this year our youngest child, Jenny, who's 30 years old, has decided to chair the walk, which is a big, big undertaking. My husband and I just wanted children who were really good people and could get outside of themselves and give back. So it's really wonderful to have them step up to the plate.
She has made helping cancer patients her lifelong, I don't want to say dream because it's bigger than that. It is her passion, it's her life. Helping people with cancer, helping people with other diseases, realize that they can live a good life with the disease, having survived the disease, having not survived the disease. You can live a good life even when you have cancer. And she has lived that and can share that and has given her life to that.
It's just little things. It's not the big things. I'm not a big production kind of person. It's just the little things. And I just figure if I can do one thing today that's better, that does something good, that leaves somebody else in a better place, then it's been a good day.
Volunteerism is working within your own circle of influence and expanding as much as you can to make a difference. It's not out of guilt, it's a privilege. It's a privilege to be able to help.
Brenda's just an incredible woman who brings great skills to everything that she does. When I look at her in the community, she has tremendous passion for helping people, but she also brings this great strategic ability to get the job done.
My husband and I spent 6 years in the Air Force, and I think that idea of service and working as a team was something that happened a long time ago and was part of that was inbred in us as a couple.
I've gotten to know Brenda through my work at United Way and her work as a volunteer at the United Way. So Brenda's been a leader for us. She's been on our board. She's one of the vice chairs of the executive committee. She's chaired a number of initiatives and been involved, especially in our Charmaine Chapman Society.
We were asked to co-chair the Charmaine Chapman Society back in October of 2011. We established a goal of $2.2 million, which was the highest ever in history.
For the first time ever, they broke the $2 million mark. An incredible increase in the midst of a not great economy, and it really was their determination, Brenda's leadership, her ability to articulate why we're doing this that made it so successful.
Just seeing the work that United Way does as a whole, when you go to the other agencies and you see how they're making a difference, whether it be the YM or the YWCA, Youth in Need was an outstanding experience that we had there. And we've just been blessed to be able to be a part of that. I've also worked with Go Red, the American Heart Association, the Luncheon for Women and Heart Health. We've worked with Matthew Dickey's Boys and Girls Club, Lindenwood University, St. Charles Community College.
When we think of Brenda's story, that's really what she's done. She's taken all the tools that were given to her, all the advantages that were given to her in terms of education, her situation in the Air Force and what she did, and she just did wonderful things with it, which is resulting in wonderful things happening in our community.
I'm humbled by the ability to have done it. Even more humbled by the fact that it's even being recognized. It's definitely an honor. Oh gosh, I'm coming with no words. It's yet one more thing that our daughters can be proud of. We sow in the wind, but we reap in the whirlwind, both the good and the bad. And so when you're planting seeds, when you're sowing those seeds that that contribute to others, you may in fact find that you get gifts that you never even dreamed about just because you were involved and you were a part of something greater than yourself.
I think it's important for everyone to realize that the good life is more than just promoting their own and pursuing their own self-interests. You know, I think Dr. Seuss said it best, the immortal Dr. Seuss, when he said, "You have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes, you can steer your direction in any way you choose."
Marion is, I'll start with a few words, dynamic, energetic. She makes me tired because of her level of energy, and she's an optimist.
My background is in commercial real estate, really finance and operations. And so many times I help organizations acquire real estate, redevelop a property, things like that.
Marion really was the key to the construction and start of the Youth Learning Center. I mean, she's friends with two of the founders and benefactors, Ray and Judy Ford. And they brought Marion in to, first and foremost, manage the construction project. And without her, it just wouldn't have happened.
I am particularly proud of my work with the Youth Learning Center, which is located in the city of St. Louis. Bill and I worked many long hours, many nights, many weekends, getting the approvals, planning the center, and it was very difficult. We were met with a lot of resistance. And we sometimes got discouraged, but we had to remember the end result that we had. And 13 years later, the center is serving many young people, and it's working. The results are there.
Number one, Marion's passionate about education, which is our primary focus. And secondly, Marion's passionate about children. I mean, and she believes, as we do, that children deserve opportunities no matter where they come from.
The other two that I'm currently working with, the Wilson School and the Art Fair. The Art Fair is the biggest event in the state of Missouri. And I think art is very, very important for a community. It's very important for young people to get involved in art. It develops critical cognitive thinking skills. It promotes free thought. All those things are very important for young people. And all those things make us better individuals and a better society.
She's dynamic. She is, she's a go-getter. All the cliches you can think of that people will use to describe success, that's who Marion is. And she just stands out in a crowd. She walks in a room, you notice her. And if you don't, she makes herself known.
I think the thing I'm most proud of is the feeling of success when I have helped someone and touched someone in some fashion. And that's a very good feeling.
My name is Vida Goldman Prince, but everybody calls me Sister because my brother started that. I taught swimming at the Missouri School for the Blind, and I did book fair, and then I began to be at the History Museum, Missouri Historical Society really at that time.
Sister has worked on oral history projects for the Holocaust Museum and Learning Center, the Holocaust survivors, the Asian community here in St. Louis, and an African American project that she actually turned into a book called That's the Way It Was.
The Jewish Light newspaper talked about a Holocaust center being in St. Louis, and I don't know why, but I called them up and I asked if I could come down and talk to them.
She has been doing this work and interviewing our Holocaust survivors since before Schindler's List was even on the map.
The goal was to have them testify because it was history, because it was an amazing thing, and to teach. And at that time, there weren't a lot of people doing this.
What she's doing is she's preserving memories. Those are really important, and especially when it comes to talking about what happened during the Holocaust, because there are plenty of people out there that are at a point where they're denying that that happened. And here she has it on tape, the eyewitnesses, the very last eyewitnesses to this particular event.
I wanted to show very distinctly that all the things, all the people that you see with their shoulders rounded and weak and dying, and that they had a life. They had a life before, and that was important.
And more importantly, you know, what she's done is she recorded these testimonies where a lot of parts to this and a lot of sentiment is around stand up when you see social injustice occur, because that's the reason why the Holocaust happened. People didn't stand up.
We were really students in every sense of the way, and we were there to listen to them. We were there to keep it going, and so we did.
I love the fact that she is incredibly dedicated, really tenacious, and she has a drive for excellence that is just incredible. And I think that she just brings a compassion to this work that, you know, is rare.
Try and make it better. You know, that's all one can do, is try and make it better. Without all of these things that I have done here with different people, I wouldn't be who I am. I can't imagine who I would be if I hadn't done the Holocaust testimonies. I have no idea what I would be doing or who I would really be, but I lucked out.